Welcome inside the War Room alongside Sam Corcoran and Chris Shroyer. I'm Srikar Rajendran here for a special midweek episode. We haven't done anything like this. It's our first time, kind of churning out content consistently like this. So if you like it, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe. But fellas, today we have a problem that we need to talk about. And it's a problem regarding who deserves a title shot and who doesn't. Now, we have a few different cases that we have available to us. The first one being Justin Gaethje. Now, for some context, basically, what's going on with Justin Gaethje is he's threatening retirement because he wants a title shot. He is not letting go of a title shot. He's literally said, I will retire if I don't get the next title fight at lightweight after Topuria and Charles Oliveira fight. And I'll go ahead and say it just straight off the bat. Like, I don't think the UFC is worried at all about that. Like, I think this is a bluff that the UFC can call pretty easily because, in all fairness, like, what does the UFC owe Justin Gaethje? Like, they're kind of just here to sell pay-per-views, make the most out of every fighter they have on their roster in the talent pool. And, once you get old and retire, you get old and retire. Like, it is just, it's what it is. So if Gaethje's threatening retirement at this old of an age, you look at what the UFC has to work with in the lightweight division and all the young guys that are coming up, they're probably looking at it like, okay, all right, go ahead. And honestly, I don't think he deserves a title shot either. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think his mandate is very strong at all. He went on Twitter recently. He posted in March, I believe March 11th. He said, yeah, I deserve the title shot because I won 3 out of my last 4, and I only lost an exhibition bout. Now, fellas, I don't know if we can say a title fight is an exhibition bout. But what are your thoughts on that tweet? Like, what do you think about what Justin Gaethje's been doing? Is he posturing well? What's he trying to do here?
I think it's clear. It's a clear case of him just trying to rise to the top in it's a stacked division. That's the other thing. Lightweight's such a stacked division. I guess if you're him, you got to do whatever you have to do to get that title shot, even if it's like cry foul and make some excuse about why you lost to Max Holloway. Exhibition bout, obviously not. Max Holloway's now a lightweight fighter. He's fought Gaethje at lightweight, and he's going to fight Dustin Poirier at lightweight now. At the end of the day, I think you need to, especially with these stacked divisions, it's interesting how the UFC is also evaluating these divisions, and we'll talk a little bit about this more later. But I think a key theme with this and why some of these fighters are demanding title shots, the name recognition is more important than fighting skills in the UFC. Today, we're hearing rumors that if Ilia Topuria beats Charles, next up for the title is Paddy Pimblett. I love Paddy Pimblett. I completely disagree with that, but I can see why the UFC wants to do that. They want a showman in the octagon versus another superstar. They want 2 superstars in the octagon. And I guess Gaethje is trying to use his name value. He's fought in title fights before to get back in and leap guys like Arman Tsarukyan, like potentially Max Holloway, who has a better name value in that case. But I understand where he's coming from. It's totally not the right move. And I think it is Gaethje, it doesn't matter too much, but some of these other guys that we're going to talk about, that's going to hurt the UFC a lot if they're only demanding title shots.
Yeah, but I agree in the sense of, you have to put out a good product and enough of a good product to get that title shot. And sad enough for some of the fighters that deserve it, putting out a good product isn't just within the octagon. It's also outside of the octagon as well. Promoting yourself, becoming a big name, showing your star power. One thing I'm going to disagree with you, Srikar, about is I think that the UFC, I agree with you that the UFC would not be worried at all if Justin Gaethje stepped away and retired. Obviously, given his age, it actually would be beneficial for him and his health if he did. But he's a dog. He's gonna fight as long as he can.
Hey, we love Justin Gaethje over here in the War Room. So
yes, we do.
Don't take it the wrong way.
But I disagree that the UFC doesn't owe him anything. He's done a lot for the company. I'm not saying necessarily that they owe him a title shot, but they should be looking at him favorably in situations like that. Like, it really could have been him or Charles to get the shot with Ilia.
What's a favorable matchup for Justin Gaethje?
Right now, if he were to fight in the lightweight division,
I got one right off the bat. Paddy Pimblett.
I think a favorable matchup
I think Paddy beats Gaethje. Like, I don't think it's a favorable matchup for him.
I
think
think it's a favorable matchup. I would call that an even matchup. I think on the feet that Gaethje, excuse me, Gaethje has the advantage, but obviously as soon as it goes to the ground, that Paddy Pimblett is just a different beast. I think, in the top 7. So wait, let me get back to what I'm saying. The UFC doesn't owe him anything, or like the UFC could owe him something. Like he took the Max Holloway fight, obviously. That was on his own volition. That was not an exhibition. That was not anything. Obviously, we have no idea what happens behind the scenes. We don't know the conversations that led to that fight being booked. The UFC really could have begged Gaethje to take it, even though he didn't want to. But obviously, no one's holding you hostage to put your name on the paper. I think that his last fights. Other than that, he's won 3 of his last 4. He knocked out Dustin, and it's a little bit of hypocrisy, or it's ironic because he said that the Max Holloway fight was an exhibition that was for the BMF title. He knocks out Dustin Poirier in the fight before that, and technically that was for the BMF title. So wouldn't that be an exhibition as well? So he technically hasn't won 3 of his last 4, no matter whichever way you look at it, whichever way you slice the cake. But even in the Fiziev fights, he beat Fiziev twice. Both fights very close. First fight arguably could have went to Fiziev. I had it scored for Gaethje. Amazing fight. Fiziev in the second fight, Justin Gaethje was supposed to fight Dan Hooker. He could have said no to fighting Fiziev on short notice. He could have been entitled and saying, no, I want what I want, and you guys are going to give it to me. But no, he was a team player. He helped out the UFC in that situation, and he's helped out the UFC in situations like that before. I don't know if that necessarily warrants a title shot, but I think that the UFC should be looking at him more in a more favorable light. And I really think that, I was listening to the John Anik show, Anik and Florian show, and John Anik said that Gaethje 100% believes that he was passed up in favor of Charles Oliveira. And in my opinion, I think it could have went either way. I don't think that it's out of this world that he's calling for a title shot like some of these other fighters. But I think that Gaethje has somewhat of a claim, but, he might have to prove just a little bit more. Like Srikar, I would like to see him fight, a Paddy Pimblett, or even maybe fight Dan Hooker like he was supposed to.
But even then, if he's fighting Paddy Pimblett, I just don't think it's favorable because, 1, he's fighting down when he wants to fight up. And then 2, we saw what Oliveira did, a master at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submissions due to Justin Gaethje. A guy with slick submissions like Paddy Pimblett is going to do the same exact thing to Gaethje. Like
the thing is,
I think Justin knows that.
Hands, but Charles has bombs in his gloves. Like he before he even got Gaethje to the ground, he already dropped him.
But Paddy's chin is better than Oliveira's.
I yes, definitely. But I think it would. I don't know what would be a favorable matchup. I just think that it's not crazy for Gaethje to feel this way in search for a title opportunity.
As it stands right now, only Arman and Charles are above Gaethje in the lightweight rankings. So, if you want to do Gaethje and Arman, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like for both guys, right? If Arman, that's a favorable matchup for Arman, if anything.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, guys, is that the loser of Topuria Charles is going to be the rankings. If it's Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, winner gets back the belt.
I wouldn't mind that. Obviously, like I think
because Arman was supposed to fight for the title, and he pulls his back.
Arman is the deserving number 1 contender right now.
Just like Shavkat is the deserving number 1 contender in welterweight. He just had an unfortunate series of events that led him to not getting the title shot.
Here's the thing. I say this all the time. At the end of the day, it's all about a timeline. But the thing is, back to the point about Gaethje begging for a title shot. If you're begging for a title shot and the timeline just clearly does not line up in your favor, then that's when it makes you look entitled. And I think talking about some of these other guys next that we're going to talk about, let's move on to Yair Rodriguez. This is one guy at the featherweight division who is begging for a title shot. By the way, just dropped today in the rankings. He dropped 1 spot down to number 5. And here's the thing: you got knocked out by you lost to Alexander Volkanovski, and then you beat who did he even beat again? It was
he lost to Volk, and then he lost to Ortega by submission.
He lost to Ortega. That's
He did not. He beat, and that was the most lackluster performance I've ever seen from.
He beat
it was
Patricio
a dominant
Pitbull. That's how
division, but,
irrelevant
like,
that
it wasn't
fight was.
crazy.
No, I'm saying on Pitbull's part. Like, Yair looked great.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong, but he was hitting a lamppost. Pitbull was not moving anywhere. He was just standing there. It was like target practice.
I wonder where we saw that before with a Bellator guy. Keep going.
Patchy Mix. Oh, I'm sorry. We love you, Patchy Mix. You're a dog. It's okay.
But we look at Yair. Obviously, I don't think it should happen. But if you want a quote from Yair, I gave a tweet from Gaethje. Yair said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna fight Diego Lopez within the company. I'm gonna fight him on the streets because I think I should fight him on the streets." I'm like, okay, if you're willing to fight him on the streets, but you're not willing to fight him for money, like,
bro, what is this? Rocky
that doesn't make
5?
any sense. Like,
That's literally Rocky 5. That's the main plot of it.
I think that's the biggest cop-out answer you could give.
Yeah,
oh, I'll fight him in the streets. Like, that's a Conor McGregor answer. Like, it's just not. You fight him within the company. It's the fight to make. It would go perfect on Noche. You already have the buildup. And after you do all that at the press conference, how can you just go out and say, yeah, I'll just fight him in the streets. I don't need to fight him.
Yeah, he was talking mad crap.
You were the one who started it. Like, I don't understand what Yair's trying to do here. But I do think the number one contender for featherweight is Movsar Evloev. Like, I think you have to give him a title shot at this point. He's 19-0, like a near 20 fight win streak. Volk has been calling for it. Like, Volk wants to fight Movsar. Movsar just beat Arnold Allen. He just beat Aljamain Sterling. Like, those are two really good names to have on your record. But now they have him booked against presumably Aaron Pico for Abu Dhabi. And they're saying, okay, you got to defend your ranking one more time. So it begs the question is, I mean, he is the deserving number one contender, but, like, how does anything Yair did recently counter that of Movsar?
It doesn't. It's flat out doesn't. And I don't think Yair, I think Yair needs a fight or even two for another title shot potentially.
I agree.
You look at this featherweight division. You have we've talked about Evloev. Diego Lopez, I completely agree. And I've been pounding the table that Diego Lopez and Yair Rodriguez is the fight to make. Put that at UFC Noche. Yeah, it feels like almost if Yair's scared to lose to him in front of the national audience, international audience.
I mean, it's exactly like Srikar said. You already have the buildup. You have everything in place. What is stopping Yair from taking this fight other than, like Sam said, literally being nervous?
And honestly, I think he could probably make more money off the Diego Lopez fight.
Oh, yeah. The buildup to that would be crazy.
He could make more money off, and that never happens. You make more money off a fight against Diego Lopez.
I don't know if I agree with that because a fight night main event versus a title fight, like, I feel like a title fight.
Noche gets treated like a pay-per-view. It's like a fight night.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing if it was Volk, like, people are expecting Volk to absolutely breeze by Yair like he did the first time.
Yeah.
And then against Diego Lopez, now you have a question of who's going to win. That's actually a very close matchup in my eyes. But back to the title picture, I say Yair needs one or two more wins. Because you look down, you have guys like Lerone Murphy. He's undefeated. He's moving up the ranks. John Silva, he's moving up the ranks, undefeated in the UFC. Even Aljamain Sterling is a former champion. I'm not saying he's a fight away or anything like that, but you can't count those guys out towards the bottom of the rankings. The featherweight division is a very interesting division where you have two of the top three guys are no longer fighting in your division. So there's going to be a lot of shakeup coming up, especially with this Max Holloway fight and this Ilia Topuria fight. But just looking at it, I mean, Yair Rodriguez just does not excite me for a title fight. And he's done way. If we talk about Gaethje, he's done so much less than Gaethje. Are you kidding me?
I was just going to say that there is such a stark contrast in this conversation than our Gaethje conversation, because Gaethje has at least been with the company for a long time. He's put on absolute bangers of fights, all-time fights. And that's where I was talking about, he has done things for the UFC to, feel a little bit entitled and feel like he's in a position to, maybe ask that hard question of, can I have the title shot or even a demand. But back to Yair, I just want to see him actually do well against a grappler. I've never seen him do well against the top line grapplers. And until I see that, because the champion is one of the best grapplers in the division in the UFC. What makes him think what does the UFC think when you're just throwing him back into the jaws of defeat again? It's like this guy isn't proven in that area of the game, and
I just don't know like why you would go this route. Like even in terms of like a promotional standpoint, like why would you choose Yair? Like I get Movsar may not be the most appealing option, but is Yair that much more appealing? Like I don't think he
so.
is.
I mean, he has a very fun fight style. Like he has a captivating style of fighting where when you watch him fight, it's very entertaining. But I mean, it's hard because he's not a huge presence on the microphone. He's not like walking around when you're talking to casual fans. I mean, I would say maybe 2 out of every 5 would probably know who Yair Rodriguez is. That's really not that many. And I don't really know. If the UFC gives him a title shot, man, I just don't even know. I really don't know what the...
If the UFC gives him a title shot, it's clearly another name recognition. And even Yair is a stretch for...
But like that just doesn't work. Like Sean O'Malley did not work. Stipe Miocic did not work. Like they're just not good fights. Like they're not.
I know. And I hope the UFC is starting to realize that it does not work.
The deserving contenders should always, be considered higher priority. It's crazy that we're saying this. Like the more deserving contenders should have higher priority over the bigger names.
And then it starts to
get into boxing territory.
The best point in case is the light heavyweight division.
They
ducked Magomed Ankalaev for so long.
That's true.
Oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do that. Because they didn't want him fighting the biggest superstar. Alex Pereira was arguably the biggest superstar in the UFC. And what happens when those two come together? Pereira loses. Magomed Ankalaev is now the new champion. And he's going to get a rematch against Alex Pereira at some point. And I have a feeling that the UFC is going to they sometimes like to pull these little things to make sure they favor the star. I feel like they might be doing that here. But I will admit, if Magomed Ankalaev can beat Alex Pereira, that does say a lot. And that says that maybe Ankalaev is the new star of the division. I know people call him a boring fighter.
Dude, Ankalaev's insane. He's really good.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't see a boring fighter.
I'm not gonna lie, the boring allegations are kind of right. Like,
yeah.
He's not entertaining, but he wins. He wins.
Well, because people in the UFC want to see strikers, and this is why they're avoiding wrestlers. This is why Movsar Evloev keeps getting ducked. This is why Magomed Ankalaev kept getting ducked. This is why guys like Bilal Muhammad kept getting ducked. The deserving contenders were not getting the title shots, and when they did, they took over. And that's the whole thing with the UFC star problem.
Yeah. Speaking of Movsar, can he get a title shot so the man can eat sugar again? Have you guys have seen that?
Like he's not eating sugar until
he hasn't been eating sugar for like a year and a half, 2 years until he gets the belt.
Hey, fair play to him. He's jacked. So I mean,
my God, dude, he's actually probably like 3% body fat or less.
It's crazy.
No, he probably has something.
Like y'all remember the picture that like circulated with like DK Metcalf like just looking absolutely built.
Oh, yeah.
How much body fat does this guy have? That's what Movsar reminds me of. But
that's a scary dude to fight in the octagon.
You know what? If Yair wants a title shot so bad, let him fight Movsar, even though Movsar's booked. But if the timelines worked out, I would just say, yo, you want a title shot so bad, fight Movsar. Prove to me you can beat Movsar. I'll give you the title shot.
Honestly, have him fight Arnold Allen. Like, I think that still favors.
Arnold Allen's a solid grappler. Like, I just want to see someone with grappling experience and a high level of grappling fight Yair and see him have success because he's a fun fighter. And you know who else is a fun fighter and has been kind of on the same track as Yair? Ian Gary.
Hey, he's not a fun fighter, but I mean, sure.
I mean,
he's entertaining.
He's
entertaining. Just like
is he? How many fights of the night has he had?
No, entertaining. Sorry, I meant entertaining as terms of like personality. Not in terms of fighting. I would argue yes. I think personality though is like I think that's another thing. Like he's a fun guy to watch.
I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm not gonna lie. Like
disagree.
I like Ian Gary. I'm not like one of those people that like hates Ian Gary because like it's a trend. Like I like Ian Gary. Like I think he's a good fighter, but. Let's look at the record first of all. Let's give some context. So 15-0. He beats Magny. He beats Jeff Neal. He beats Michael Venom Page. He loses to Shavkat in what was a title eliminator. Essentially, he loses to Shavkat, and then he comes back. He beats Carlos Prates, and then he demands a title shot. Like, okay, but no. Like, I don't think Ian Garry, off of one win against Carlos Prates, should just skyrocket to a title shot when there's already a guy named Islam Makhachev who's moving up and is already, you know, the pound for pound #1 guy in the sport. Like, why? Like, I think another thing is the fighters have to be aware of like where they really are in the pecking order. Like, where are they relative to every other guy, and where is the state of their division? Because
the welterweight division is one of those stacked. That's another thing.
And that's where I applaud a guy like Sean Brady. Sean Brady knows. He's literally gone out and said, yeah, Islam's getting the next shot. I need to fight again. He just went and dismantled Leon in the UK.
Oh, my God.
And then for him to say, okay, yeah, I need to fight again and really prove myself. And he called out Gary on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that goes to show.
According to Sean Brady, that fight is happening. I don't know when.
Which good. Yeah, I think it should.
Which is good because I think that'll I don't want to be rude to Ian Garry, but at some point you need to sit back and realize, okay, who's ahead of me? Bilal Muhammad's ahead of me. Sean Brady's ahead of me. Shavkat Rakhmonov's ahead of me. Maybe Leon Edwards. I would argue no. I would put Gary over.
No, not Leon. Not Leon.
Yeah, I was going to say. And then Kamaru Usman just beat Joaquin Buckley.
I'd have Kamaru Usman over him right now.
Yeah, I was going to say Kamaru could actually jump that entire list of people with the name recognition thing we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It seems like I think this is where I feel like we have some good news with Ian Garry's calls have slowly simmered down as of recently, whereas Gaethje's been consistent, Yair's been consistent. It seems like Ian Garry's starting to realize that, okay, maybe I'm not next. Maybe I need to do a bit more. And I guess that also kind of happens when you're undefeated, like never lost a fight before, lost to Shavkat. Obviously, if you're undefeated, your ego is going to be sky high. I think that's another thing with a lot of these fighters is they're just known to be winners in their life.
Yeah.
And when you're known to be a winner, what do you want? You want the belt. You want the best. One loss for Ian Garry, and it was, mind you, especially that fifth round against Shavkat, he almost had that.
It was a great fight.
It was a great fight. He almost
the problem
had
is he's
that.
riding the coattails of that to like try and favor himself more positively for a title shot.
And Shavkat had a torn MCL, so
and this is why like I feel like a lot of these fighters just need to prove themselves. And we see these videos on YouTube all the time, like worst UFC callouts of all time. And it just starts derailing people's careers. Who was the guy there was an unranked guy, and I forget his name. And I think the reason I forget his name is he ended up being irrelevant. He was unranked and called out Conor McGregor. And everyone was like, what in the world are you doing?
It was Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was
It was Buckley?
It was Joaquin Buckley.
The best UFC call-out of all time was Islam Makhachev winning and going, Dana, give me Mayweather. Woo!
That's funny. I did not know that was Buckley. I mean, Buckley did nothing was he middleweight or welterweight at the time?
He was welterweight.
Yeah.
He was welter. Well, clearly he rebounded from that because I remember back then, like nobody knew his name.
I mean, Ian Garry is on the right track. Like his track record is good, and at one point he will get a title shot. It's just it's like you said, Sam. Timelines are everything in UFC, and it's just very unfortunate that when he's reaching his peak, I don't necessarily know if it's peak, when he's reaching the top of his mountain, he is at such a unfortunate time in the welterweight class in terms of when people are fighting, who's entering the division, because Islam's entering the division. That's obviously putting a halt on everything because obviously the UFC wants to get him the belt or as close to the belt as possible. But I mean, Ian Garry, who do we even see him fighting next? Who would be available and who would?
Sean Brady apparently has been saying that fight's happening. I thought the best fight for him would have been Leon Edwards.
I think so.
But I don't mind Sean Brady at all. And then this might be the UFC wanting to fast track Ian Garry because I do. This is where Srikar, I disagree with you. You say there's no entertainment value. I see the entertainment value, and I feel like
UFC, where are you seeing the entertainment? Like, you can't just say he's entertaining. Like, okay, but what about in the octagon?
What?
What about in the octagon?
I mean,
here's the thing: the UFC can sell any. sorry to interrupt. The UFC can sell any card based on what people talk and what comes out of their mouth, not necessarily their skill in the octagon.
I think Srikar.
Look what happened with Bryce Mitchell and John Silva.
But that's because Silva's actually entertaining.
Well, but like
Silva is, but Bryce Mitchell was also like. Look what came out of Bryce Mitchell's mouth.
But also, John Silva led the dance in terms of him calling out Bryce Mitchell and then him trash talking Bryce Mitchell afterward. Bryce was just responding to Silva.
No, but my point is like the UFC is able to sell Bryce Mitchell, who has said horrible things in the past, because people want to see someone who says that get knocked out. And if you're saying opposite, you're saying the good things, you're saying you're trash talking someone. The UFC wants to sell that, and then you want to see that trash talker win. Or just get absolutely owned. It's exactly, the UFC is an entertainment company, and I think that's one thing we need to realize.
I don't think that's where Ian Garry falls, though. I think Ian Garry gets promoted because he's legitimately good. Like, he's legitimately.
I mean, that too. Yes, you have to be good to get promoted.
And he just happens. Excuse me. He just happens to be good on the microphone, which is always a plus, always welcomed in the UFC. Fighters make their career off the mic. Fighters can make a career off the microphone and not be relatively successful in the octagon. But Ian Garry, like, I think Srikar, you were alluding to the point of not an entertaining fighter because he's been the decision his past 4 fights, correct?
And he's never won a fight of the night bonus. He's won performance of the night once in the UFC.
Okay. I think maybe I would have to look at the cards that he was on to see where those bonuses fall. But I mean, obviously, for someone of his star power, he should be getting bonuses, but I don't think we can measure him in terms of how many bonuses he got. Or
it does kind of tell you how entertaining you are.
That is true.
I do kind of agree with that.
I agree, but there are times where there will be such a good fight and there will just be one fight that is slightly better and that'll get a bonus. And
but where is that with Ian Garry?
Justin Jacoby, what was it, 2 fight nights ago? Knockout in the first round. Flatlined the guy. Didn't even get a bonus.
But where is that with Ian Garry? Like what fight are we like?
I mean, dude, his shot. Did he get a bonus?
What fight from Ian Garry are we like actively going back to? Unless I'm doing like some tape study, I'm not going back to like an Ian Garry fight. Personally.
Well, one fight that I was really impressed with was when he fought MVP. I mean, obviously, I was impressed with his Shavkat fight because
I don't think that was an entertaining win.
No, okay, I'm not saying it was entertaining, but I was impressed with like Ian Garry's the way he was making adjustments on the fly. It was 1-1 going into the 3rd round. Ian Garry, he's known for standing up, striking, just not really dabbling in the ground game, and he took it to MVP in terms of looking for takedowns. He showed his maturity and showed why he could one day be a champion and tried to show his all-around game. He's shown that he's working on his all-around game. He's not just a one-trick pony and just standing up and striking. I think that he's a marketable guy, though. You can market him. I think personally, him calling for the title, there's absolutely no way in hell. And it's like Sam said, you really have to take a step back and check your surroundings. Look who's ahead of you. Look who's behind you. See what's actually feasible for your future and your career. But I mean, it's very different. Him and Yair, I feel like, are different than the Gaethje situation because Gaethje's actually produced and shown that he could be deserving of a title shot, and he can actually. And
he's fought in title bouts before.
Exactly, like
multiple.
He's been to the top.
Multiple.
Yes, multiple. Even though he lost pretty bad, and he got finished in both of them. Both by submission, actually, and both by rear naked choke.
Khabib and Oliveira,
yeah, both, literally both. So whoever fights Gaethje next, just look for the rear naked. You didn't hear it from me.
It's there for you.
Well, also just looking at this,
like, you guys understand what I'm saying about Garry?
Yeah, and I think
I do. And I want to.
Oh, sorry, Sam. You want to go ahead?
Well, I kind of just want to go off your point about. I do think Garry also kind of realizes how stacked this welterweight division is, and I think I said it with Gaethje. That's one thing people are saying earlier, because now you got another fighter in this mix calling for a title shot after his win last Saturday, Kamaru Usman. And I think this is a much different case than some of these other guys like Ian No.
No. I said oh. I was gonna say oh yeah. I just didn't finish my
Oh,
thought.
okay. Yeah, no, this is a much different case than some of these other guys.
Yeah.
Because look at Ian Gary. Ian Gary in the welterweight division is 27. His nickname is the Future. There's a lot to come for Ian Gary. That says a lot. Meanwhile, Kamaru Usman is 11 years older, number 5 contender. Obviously, he's been at the top of the UFC before. And you look at him now calling for the title shot after a win against Joaquin Buckley, albeit a convincing win, but a 3-fight losing streak and 2 years off. First fight win since 2021, I believe.
Yes.
Or early 2022. One
First
of those two.
win since 2021. First fight since 2023.
First fight since 2023. Exactly. It's interesting. And I think a lot of I don't know if I would consider Usman entitled to a title shot. I don't think he deserves it, but I also think it's just like, if you're Kamaru Usman, what do you have to do to make sure you can get a title shot before you retire? Because the end is near for him.
Well, here's how I'd play it if I'm Kamaru. Sorry, I cut you off there, but obviously we talked about Usman and Bilal like having some steam. We talked about that on the last episode. Go check that out if you haven't. But I think timing is everything in this case with Kamaru, and Brady and Gary are obviously fighting soon, and I think that's going to be a title eliminator. That's going to establish the next guy like after Islam. Bilal and Shavkat are actually on like similar timelines, and I think they're actually going to set those two up together. Maybe in Abu Dhabi, I think that makes sense for that pay-per-view.
So you think Shavkat needs an
I think Kamaru is going to have another long layoff. Like I think that's literally what's going to happen here. Kamaru is going to have to wait a little bit, and depending on that, I think whoever loses between JDM and Islam should be fighting Kamaru, because whoever wins that is right back like in title conversations. Because even if we look at what happened before Kamaru beat Buckley, he was on a 3-fight loss streak. Like if you win once, you're not getting a title shot like straight off of that.
I feel like his losses are so different though.
I know, like I agree, like they are.
They're not like regular losses.
But it's still a 3-fight loss streak. Like, and at the end of the day, that matters. Like, even if we all collectively may think that those losses were close, I mean, I'd argue 2 of them were draws, and he was winning the Leon fight up until Leon head kicked him. But I don't think that one win after 3 losses in a row should send you right back to the top of the title picture when there's so many other contenders. You know, especially when you look at, yes, Sean Brady, Ian Gary, like you look at all these guys. Again, timing is everything, and I just don't think the timing really favors Kamaru right now.
Yeah, I mean, on Sunday's podcast, like Srikar said, go check that out so you could hear our instant reactions from Kamaru's fight. I was saying that, you know, give it to him. Why not? I was talking about Kamaru's career timeline, saying, just like Sam said, we don't know how much longer he has. The end is near for Kamaru, sadly. Love Kamaru, one of my favorite fighters of all time, one of the welterweight GOATs. And I think he has done absolutely so much for the company, unbelievable amounts for the company. And that's where it's like the Gaethje situation, but tenfold. He's in a position where he's done so much for the UFC that I really think if he wanted a title shot, they would owe him a title shot just because of what he's done. And I know it's, you know, it's annoying because,
but again, they don't owe anyone anything.
They don't owe anyone anything, but in terms of what he's done for them, he would be looked at in a much more favorable light than a lot of other fighters. But one thing I think should happen, just to be clear, don't want to get something wrong. Shavkat is not scheduled for anything correctly. He's still recovering.
No, he's not. And he could be out. He might not fight until 2026.
Okay.
From the reports.
Nah, I think he'll come back in like the fall. There's no 2026 is crazy.
What was his injury again? Was it the MCL?
Yes.
Yeah, and he suffered it like last December.
Okay. Yes. I remember seeing a report somewhere that he might, and if it was 2026, it would be early 2026.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure here. You know what? Let me do a little bit of quick research. I'm pretty sure something else happened though. I don't think it was just the knee. He had another setback because he was offered the Bilal fight that JDM wound up taking in February, and I believe he had to decline that because of injury.
Yeah, he was supposed to be on 315.
So yes, torn MCL. Yeah, I guess just
it could have been a setback with the same injury.
Yeah, it was probably. I believe it was just a setback, but regardless, I think, you know, he's been out for quite a while, so hopefully his knee is healing up well. I mean, February they said February declined the fight, so that quick math right here, 4 months from that. Right now we are 4 months out from that title offer. I think Kamaru could, if he doesn't get the title shot, which it's looking questionable for him, and I did say on Sunday that he should get it, but I think he should call out Shavkat. I think he should make himself undeniable and take out the number one contender. And it would be okay. I think it would be good for the UFC. It'll be a high profile fight. It also gives it's a very tough fight, but it gives Shavkat a chance to, it's almost like a tune-up fight for him, because I'm not saying Kamaru Usman is a tune-up fight by any means, but it's him getting back in the octagon, getting used to, getting used to fighting again at that pace, at that style. And, when obviously that'll just settle itself. That'll settle the number one contendership. And I mean, hopefully the timelines could be lining up. I mean, hopefully Shavkat is recovering well right now, and Kamaru obviously just fought, so they're both currently unbooked. So that could leave room for, like you guys said, Sean Brady versus Ian Gary, Shavkat versus Kamaru. I have no idea what they would do though with both of those winners.
Well, here's the thing. I'll give y'all an early take. I think Kamaru, he beats everyone in this division except JDM and Shavkat. Like, I think those two are the only guys that can.
I don't hate that take at all.
Sean Brady would be close, but I think Kamaru would win that. Just
Kamaru
because
would win the grappling. Sean Brady's amazing, but dude, Kamaru just
also on the feet, I'd give it to Kamaru. So
say it again.
On the feet, I would give it to Kamaru as well.
Exactly. I don't know, bro. Sean Brady's boxing has been pretty sharp. His boxing is pretty sharp.
It has.
I would give it to Kamaru, I think.
Yeah, it would be a close fight. I think Brady would be close,
but Buckley was low-key piecing him up on the feet. But
I thought Buckley beat him on the feet.
Buckley,
yeah, for sure.
Buckley just swings with the power of literally every human on earth.
I also thought that was like Buckley. I also thought part of it was like Usman getting back in the cage for the first time.
Yeah, it was definitely ring rust.
It also could be old age. He's 38.
It was definitely some ring rust. But, I mean, dude, Kamaru, he showed he still has it, man. Like, he cannot be counted out against any of this, what we've been calling the new guard of welterweight. He's showing that he is one of the last welterweights of the old guard standing, and he's taking it to him. Like, he controlled Buckley. Buckley's a very strong person. Even if his wrestling isn't as good, or his grappling isn't as good as you would want it to be, it's still hard to hold someone down who's that strong for that long. And Kamaru held him down for 13 minutes.
Also, the timing on Kamaru's takedowns were actually like,
it was remarkable.
Spot on.
Pinpoint. It's a second nature to him.
Yeah.
And he really just has the fight IQ. And sometimes if you lose a step, you lose a little bit of power, that fight IQ comes in handy. He's thinking smarter and not harder.
But with JDM and Shavkat, I think JDM would beat him just because I think he would absolutely obliterate Kamaru on the feet. But also JDM can scramble a lot better than Buckley can.
Yeah,
those takedowns that Bilal were shooting constantly. JDM stuff. I think at one point Bilal was 1 for 11.
Yeah, like he couldn't bring him down. And also, even if he does get down, he's not there for like more than 30
JDM
seconds.
Pops right back up, gets in scramble mode, and then he'll land 2 hard shots off the break. And that's something that Kamaru is gonna have to watch for. But I think him calling for, going back to the title picture, I think him calling for a title shot is probably one of the more acceptable requests, and not really a demand. It's more of like a, come on guys, I'm still here. You know what I've done. Let me show it again. But there are a lot of people in line. Do you guys necessarily think that Shavkat fight could be good, or do you guys see that going in a different path?
I think Shavkat would win a close fight. He could finish Kamaru, but like, I think if we look at what both guys can do on the ground, I think there is a pretty actually decent chance that Shavkat just gets controlled on the ground, especially if Ian Gary could kind of scramble out and progress position against him.
Do you think it's good matchmaking though? Like, do you think that would be something.
I don't mind it. I don't think
I don't mind
bad.
it either. I think especially Usman Shavkat, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah, I
timing
think
is a big thing.
I think with Usman's age, especially, like if you're the UFC, that's a superstar. You ought to fast track him. I think it's a little unfair to say Kamaru Usman has the next title shot, just because of how stacked the division is. I don't hate Usman Shavkat. We just need to make sure Usman stays active because he hasn't been doing that for the past 2 years. Same thing with Shavkat too. That's the other thing. And I think that's also something that the UFC is just going to really need coming up, is just active champions. And I'm basing that not just off of like you need active fighters in the UFC, but look at the middleweight division right now. With you might have one of the most inactive fighters as a
very
champion.
Inactive.
What?
Srikar has been very inactive.
Oh, I'm talking about Khamzat.
Oh,
Yeah, Khamzat is. If you think Dricus is inactive,
Dricus has been active.
He's been active. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of
the
most. If the UFC has one of the most inactive fighters they have on their roster as champion, that's a problem. And the UFC is going to make sure they force multiple people who are quote unquote inactive to keep fighting. And it's kind of what they did with Aljamain Sterling when he fought Sean O'Malley. Not that there was necessarily an issue for it at the time, but they wanted to make sure like
they definitely rushed Aljo into that fight.
Oh, they did. And that's the thing though. You're going to see more of that if there's some inactive champions coming up. So I think it's a good way to also just weed out the fighters who are quote unquote inactive and show who's really legit, who are the superstars, who can be the face of the UFC and fight maybe 3 times a year, at minimum 2.
Like
I think
Volk is a perfect example of the perfect fighter. He just always wants to fight, always down to brawl, literally anyone. That's what younger fighters should model themselves after. They should also model themselves after Josh Van. Josh Van has obviously
but not everyone is Josh Van active.
I was going to say, obviously you have to be able to take that wear and tear on your body. But if you're able to fight and you can be as active as possible, it'll only help you.
And for what it's worth, Prime Kamaru, like during his title run, was very active.
Yes,
like, he was very active. Izzy was extremely active during his title run. Like, Volk, Kamaru, Izzy, all these guys. Like, if you can stay, I guess, like on a consistent basis, you fight every
Charles' short period as champion, he literally fought like everyone.
Every 4 months.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's another thing that will factor in with some of these decisions. Can these fighters stay active? The fighters that we're talking about, they need to stay active. You look at a guy like Justin Gaethje. He lost to Max Holloway, and then 11 months later wins. That's not what I call active. You need to make sure he
needed the time off, though.
Yeah, to be fair, the commissions definitely would not let him fight after that.
Oh yeah, no, some of these fighters need the time off, but that's the other thing. Like, if you can lose and stay active, that's a benefit, though. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Exactly.
100%. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys think about anything we discussed. It's our first time experimenting with this kind of roundtable discussion format, but I definitely enjoyed it. We got a little bit of insight into the welterweight picture, and as well as, who deserves a title shot, who doesn't. We're going to see how everything shakes out as the year progresses on. But we're going to have our picks for UFC Baku up real soon, probably in like the next couple days. Friday. And it should be a fun one. I don't know if y'all have been doing some tasting.
We got a special guest too.
Also, yes, our first ever special guest will be joining us for that one. It's going to be a fun one. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Go ahead and follow our socials. It's right there on our background right there. MMA War Room, WarRoomMMAPod. Yeah, I think they're pointing to the right direction. We're like mirrored. So like I don't know if he's
so
I think he's pointing the right way. But there it is. Those are our socials. And thank you for stepping inside the War Room. We're going to see you guys real soon.